Madam President.
Senator from Alaska.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, this week the Senate is going to take up 3 Ninth Circuit judges, 3 federal judges for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And in the process, the Biden administration is going to smash an institutional and constitutional norm between the executive and legislative branch, particularly the executive branch, the White House, and the U.S. Senate, that every U.S. senator, all 100 of us, should be concerned about. Let me explain, Madam President. This is a really important issue. Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution says the following: the President shall have power, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties, provided 2/3 of the senators present concur. And he shall nominate, and by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, shall appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and counsels, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. Now, Madam President, that includes federal circuit court judges. Throughout this Article 2, Section 2 provision of the Constitution, it says, with the advice and consent of the Senate. We are of the Senate, right here. And this week, we will be voting on 3 U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. Now, this provision in the Constitution, like so many, which gives the U.S. Senate the exclusive right for the advice and consent power, was the result of compromise. If you look at the history in Federalist Numbers 75 and 76, Alexander Hamilton argued that this provision afforded a necessary means of checks and balances against the executive branch, against the president. The Constitution, according to the U.S. Senate history that I'm quoting from, also provides that the Senate shall have this power to accept or reject presidential appointees to the executive and judicial branches. This was born of compromise, as I mentioned, and in debating the issue, the framers addressed concerns that entrusting the appointment power exclusively to the president would encourage monarchical tendencies. Additionally, as the Senate was to represent each state equally, its role, the advice and consent role in the Constitution, offered security to smaller states whose delegates at the time feared they would be overwhelmed by appointees sympathetic to larger states. For these reasons, Madam President, since I've been in the U.S. Senate, I've taken this advice and consent role very seriously. For all nominees, during the Obama administration, when I was here for the last 2 years of that administration, all of the Trump administration, and now the Biden administration. And as you can imagine, whenever I have asked for a meeting of any nominee so I could meet with them under this constitutional provision for a Senate-confirmed position, every single administration I've dealt with, the 3 I just named, have said, of course, Senator, that's your constitutional role. Of course you should meet with them. Why is that? Why has every White House said yes? Because, as I just mentioned, they know that that's literally our constitutional role, as I just mentioned. So every time I have asked for one of these meetings, for a Senate-confirmed nominee of any administration, it's always been granted. Until today, Madam President, until today. As I said, the Senate's business, a lot of the business this week, is actually going to be focused on the advice and consent constitutional role that we have, especially as it relates to judges. But I've been told by this White House, specifically the White House counsel, I guess, to be honest, it's often difficult to figure out who's in charge over there, that I can't meet with any of these Ninth Circuit judges that we're going to vote on this week before the vote. This is a shocking breach of institutional norms between the White House and the Senate that every senator here, every senator, regardless of party, should be concerned about. Why? As I mentioned, the advice and consent role is really important for every Senate-confirmed position. It's mandated by the U.S. Constitution, but, Madam President, it is particularly important for judges. Judges who will get life tenure. By the end of this week, it's likely that these 3 Ninth Circuit judges will be on the bench for the rest of their lives. And right now, I can't get a 1-hour meeting with them. They have enormous power over American citizens, and I'm going to talk about the Ninth Circuit and the power it has over my citizens. So my experience as a senator is that I meet with as many judges as possible. And whenever I've requested a meeting of any administration to meet with a judge, it's always been granted. But I always meet with the Ninth Circuit judges. As I mentioned, Madam President, until now, I have interviewed every single Ninth Circuit judge that this body has voted on for the last almost 7 years. Every single one. During my entire time in the Senate. Why is this so important to me? Why is this so important to everybody? Well, specifically as it relates to the Ninth Circuit, if you can look at this map, as many Americans know, most of our federal court systems are divided into what are called circuits. The Ninth Circuit, which is this dark brown, is the biggest federal court of appeals in the country. It's huge. Look at all the states that are under the jurisdiction of the Ninth Circuit: California, Idaho, Arizona, Washington, Oregon, Montana, Alaska, Hawaii. It's enormous. Almost 1 in 5 Americans are under the jurisdiction of the Ninth Circuit. It has enormous power, especially over my constituents in the great state of Alaska. But here's the thing, Madam President. If you look at the number of judges that each circuit court gets, another reason why the Ninth Circuit is so important and so powerful is it gets an enormous number of judges. The Ninth Circuit is listed here on the far left. 29 active judges. 1 judge comes from the great state of Alaska. 1 judge comes from the great state of Alaska. So as you can imagine, discussing legal issues with any judge from the Ninth Circuit is very important to me and more important to the people I represent. Here's something else about the Ninth Circuit, Madam President. On so many issues that matter to my constituents, the court gets the legal issues wrong. The court gets the legal issues wrong. Now, I've seen this firsthand. Almost 25 years ago, I had the honor of being a Ninth Circuit law clerk for the only Ninth Circuit judge we have in Alaska, Judge Andrew Kleinfeld, a phenomenal judge. I watched panel after panel in the Ninth Circuit get cases related to the great state of Alaska wrong. Now, look, in some ways, it's not their fault. Yeah, they had different views and legal outlooks. But if you're a judge and you grew up in L.A., and all you know is L.A., California laws, and now you're a Ninth Circuit judge, and you're supposed to rule on all these very Alaska-specific federal laws, you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really know what you're doing. And I saw that as a young lawyer. But don't take my word for it, Madam President. In the last 4 years, the U.S. Supreme Court has taken up 3 specific Alaska cases. two of which were from the Ninth Circuit, one of which was from D.C. Circuit. These big, important circuits all got them wrong. Cases that would have changed the history and future of my state. So, when I meet with nominees for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit, it's usually always very cordial. I walk them through a lot of issues, legal issues, of which they know very little about. Again, not their fault. And to explain why these are so important to the people I represent. Again, if you're an LA lawyer or a lawyer from Phoenix, you don't know about Native Alaskan law. You don't know about the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, called ANILCA, a federal law, 1,000 pages, that the U.S. Supreme Court in the last 3 years twice smacked down the Ninth Circuit 9-0, 9-0, because the Ninth Circuit continually gets these Alaska-focused statutes wrong. So I walk them through these issues. That's all I do. It's not a big deal. It's actually trying to help the judges. I think every Ninth Circuit judge I've met with appreciates it. So let me give you a couple examples of what I would do if I could meet with these judges. Like I said, Madam President, ANILCA, the Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act. Hugely important federal law, passed in 1980. We didn't want it, by the way. It federalized almost 100 million acres of land in Alaska. Imagine that. Most states aren't even as big as 100 million acres. The U.S. Supreme Court 9-0 ruled in favor of a moose hunter who wanted access to federal lands, named John Sturgeon, very famous Alaskan right now. Went back to the Ninth Circuit, they misinterpreted it, went back up to the U.S. Supreme Court 9-0, they smacked him down again. Justice Kagan, who wrote the second opinion, said if John Sturgeon lived in any other state, his lawsuit would not have had a prayer of success, except that Sturgeon lives in Alaska. And as we, the U.S. Supreme Court, have said before, quote, Alaska is often the exception, not the rule, when it comes to these kind of federal laws and federal parks. Do you think it would be good to have a Ninth Circuit judge getting ready to get on the court to understand the Sturgeon case? It would be. So that's what I do. I have the judges read Sturgeon. I have them read other cases. It's all advice and consent. It's our constitutional role. Until today, I've done it with every Ninth Circuit judge. Like I said, I was over at the White House on Friday really kind of banging the table on the Biden administration's war on Alaska. Some of you may have seen a speech I gave last week. 20 executive orders and executive actions singularly focused on my great state. 20. Crushing working families. And I said, you know, one thing I'd like to do is continue my record of meeting with every Ninth Circuit judge. I'm available Sunday night, all day Monday. Give me a call. Haven't heard anything back. Something else I do with these judges when they come before me is I talk about Indian law. Now, a lot of lawyers think, hey, I really know Indian law well. In my advice and counsel in the advice and consent process, when it comes to Indian law in Alaska, you think you're an expert, throw out everything you know about lower 48 Indian law when it comes to Alaska Indian law. The Native Alaskan law in Alaska, the federal law, is 100% different than it is in the lower 48. This is just advice I give judges who are going on the Ninth Circuit. They don't know this. An LA lawyer doesn't know this. This week, Madam President, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Congress's passage of the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, what we call in Alaska ANCSA, the largest settlement of indigenous land claims, certainly in America, probably in the world. Really successful act, not perfect, very innovative, but it's been litigated like crazy. We had a case from the Ninth Circuit several years ago that essentially said ANCSA created reservation land throughout the entire state of Alaska. That would have changed the history of Alaska forever. Of course, the Ninth Circuit got it wrong. That case went up to the Supreme Court, 9-zip. The Supreme Court smacked down the Ninth Circuit, said ANCSA didn't do that. That's not what Congress intended. You think it would be good for these judges this week if I could sit down with them to understand that? It would be really good, really important. It would help them for their jobs. Just this year, the D.C. Circuit on another ANCSA-related case, the Chialis case, got ANCSA wrong again. And guess what? It went up to the U.S. Supreme Court again. They just ruled on it 4 months ago. A huge victory for my state again. We wrote an amicus brief, Senator Murkowski, Congressman Young, and I, but it was enormously important. This wrong case at the D.C. Circuit would have changed the history of Alaska forever. The Supreme Court, 6-3, said, nope, you guys are misinterpreting Alaska. Do you think that these judges are misinterpreting ANCSA? Do you think these judges on the Ninth Circuit who were debating to confirm this week would learn a little bit about that? If I could meet with them, they would. Finally, Madam President, the other thing I always do with Ninth Circuit judges, I talk about the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is really, really important to the people I represent. We use firearms for food, for self-defense in the wild. Well over 60% of all the homes in my state have firearms for these reasons. If you're an LA lawyer, you don't know this stuff, but all of a sudden you're going to be ruling on cases that deal with Alaska or Idaho or Montana. And here's the thing, Madam President. They might not know these issues. These judges, I've looked at their background. I've wanted to interview them. Again, remarkably, I can't get an interview with them. And here's the thing. As soon as they get confirmed, they're going to get these cases before them, dealing with my state and other states, to rule on these kind of issues. You'd think a meeting would help them? Boy, I should really think about that. I remember Senator Sullivan talked about ANILCA in the Sturgeon case. I'm really glad I read the Sturgeon case. This is why these advice and consent constitutional meetings are so important. And as I mentioned, Madam President, I've been doing this my entire time in the Senate. I've never not had a meeting with a Ninth Circuit judge. Doesn't matter where they're from, Montana, Arizona, Washington State. They're going to rule on issues that relate to my state and my constituents. And these judges don't mind that. They actually, I think, enjoy it. They learn. But this White House says you can't meet with them. This is absurd. Here's the question. What are they hiding? What are they worried about? Are they hiding something? Are the judges hiding something? Again, this is a precedent, Madam President, that Democrats and Republicans should all be against. As we know, what goes around comes around in this body. And this just doesn't make sense. All three of these Ninth Circuit judges will have life tenure and enormous, enormous power over everybody in the Ninth Circuit. That's 20% of all Americans. And certainly enormous power over the people in Alaska, whom I'm privileged to serve and represent. And these judges are likely to know very little about these issues that I just talked about. So I believe I have a constitutional role to help them understand these issues better. And that's the way it's always been. Nobody's complained. Absurdly, the White House has said, well, Senator Sullivan, you can meet with the Ninth Circuit judge if they're from Alaska. What? We have one judge. And she's not going to be retiring anytime soon. That's it. Now, here's the thing. I just talked to the previous administration's White House counsel this morning when I called the Biden administration's White House counsel this morning. Still waiting for that phone call, by the way. Because I asked, I said, look, if the White House counsel is saying no to a U.S. senator to do his constitutional duty, I'd like to hear it directly from her. So she hasn't called me back yet. But I talked to the previous administration's White House counsel, and I said, by the way, did you guys do this? I'm just double checking. I mean, I got to meet with all the Ninth Circuit judges President Trump put forward, but did you blackball Democrats? Did you do that? And they said, absolutely not. Made a few phone calls to other people in the White House counsel's office, said, to the contrary, when any senator wanted to meet with any circuit judge, we always made it happen. So this is a new precedent. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, this is just a bad precedent. In the notion that, well, Senator, you get to meet with a Ninth Circuit judge from Alaska, when, by the way, California, I think they have close to 20 Ninth Circuit judges. But the notion that you can only meet with the one who's from your state is actually moronic. The people who need to be educated are the ones who aren't from your state, because they're all going to rule on issues from your state. So I'm still waiting for the White House counsel to call me back, or whoever's in charge in the White House. But I'm going to conclude with this, Madam President. I'm going to go around them. I'm going to go around them. Here's what I'm going to do, and I hope someone's watching from the White House, but more importantly, I hope someone's watching from the judges' chambers. So, Judge Koh, we're getting ready to vote on your nomination tonight. Judge Sung, of Oregon, we're getting ready to vote on your nomination tomorrow. Judge Sanchez of California, the rumor is the majority leader is going to file cloture on your nomination. Those are 3 Ninth Circuit judges. Judge Thomas, Holly Thomas of California, you might get voted on this week too. 4. Here's my ask. Give me a call. Give me a call. Give my office a call. I'll meet with you tonight. Let's do a phone call. You want to learn about ANILCA? You want to learn about the Sturgeon case? It'll make you a better Ninth Circuit judge. Here's the number, 202-224-1026. Give my office a call. I'm ready to meet anytime. And here's the thing for the judges. 1 hour of your time, you're going to have lifetime tenure. 1 hour to talk to a U.S. senator doing his constitutional duty for the people he represents. Shouldn't be that hard. As a matter of fact, this is probably your first test of judicial independence. A U.S. senator of the Senate, read the Constitution, wants to undertake his advice and consent constitutional role with you. Okay? You guys have read the Constitution, those 4 judges I just mentioned. But an unelected bureaucrat in the White House, I guess the White House counsel, but who the heck knows? Hard to tell who's in charge over there. She's blocking this. So again, give my office a call, 202-224-1026. I'm ready to meet, talk to you anytime before the vote. And don't worry, I don't think President Biden's going to yank your nomination if you call me. Heck, he probably didn't even know this is going on. But you know this is the right thing to do, judges. You've read the Constitution. Heck, if our meeting goes well, I might even vote for you. But here's the thing. You'll learn more about the issues that you're going to have to deal with very soon in your tenure, which you probably don't know anything about. No offense to you. But I've read your backgrounds. You don't know anything about Native Alaskan law. You don't know anything about ANILCA. You probably have very different views than I and my constituents do on the Second Amendment. But you need to hear these issues because you're going to be life tenured on the Ninth Circuit. And you don't have time to talk to me, a U.S. senator, who's a senator representing a state from the Ninth Circuit? You know it's wrong. And by the way, my colleagues in the Senate know it's wrong. So I hope my Democrat and Republican colleagues realize that this is not a good precedent. This is not a good precedent. Never happened as far as I've been here. And Madam President, you know, from big things to small things, this administration is really focused in many ways on smashing political and institutional norms that have enjoyed strong bipartisan support. And it's not good for this body. It's not good for the government. The Wall Street Journal today had an article about Biden federal regulators staging a coup against the director of the FDIC on bank mergers. One of these regulators don't even have power over bank mergers, and now he's trying to be in charge. I serve on the U.S. Naval Academy Board of Visitors. It's a huge honor. The president comes in, President Biden fires everybody on the service academies who was appointed by President Trump. Nobody had ever done that before. No president. Everybody on the Board of Visitors on the Naval Academy is furious. The Democrats, the Republicans. The number one thing they're saying is, this president is the first one to politicize the service academies. And then, oh, by the way, he hasn't appointed anyone yet to replace the people he fired, so we didn't have a quorum for our meeting last week. Just smashing institutional norms. But this institutional norm, advice and consent, when it comes to circuit court judges with life tenure, is something that we've all agreed upon. And the previous administration certainly allowed for it. And yet right now I can't meet with a Ninth Circuit judge who's going to have enormous power for their entire lives over my constituents. So to my colleagues, we shouldn't allow this. You guys know it's wrong. And to the judges, like I said, Judge Sanchez, Judge Cole, Judge Sung, Thomas, give my office a call. Do the right thing. Your first test of judicial independence is before you. Of the Senate, the U.S. Senate, of the Senate, of which I am a part, wants to do our constitutional role. Give us a call so we can do it. Ignore the very bad advice you're getting from the White House counsel, whoever's in charge over there. I yield the floor.